if you're listening, I'm having trouble getting through to you. Can you just remind me of your telephone number? Please send it to, well, of course, studio@harbourfm.co.uk. I can't get through.
seems so sweet, since that sad Piero became my beau and taught me the Entropy Tango. Flow, flow, as the rains turn into snow, and it's slow, 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 as the colors lose their glow.
Well, it's Don Falcone time. I got him at last. The cell phone did it. Let's see if Don is there. Are you with us, Don?
I am here.
You haven't gone anywhere, have you?
No, I haven't.
These difficulties in getting through on these international calls, they're a right pain sometimes, Don.
I have a good chance to hear 2 or 3 songs.
You did. You wrote music. Anyway, welcome along to the Hawk Chill Out Sessions again, Don. It's great to have your company.
Good to be back.
And we're going to have a little chat about the records and the CDs and the albums that we're hearing in the background, and what we'll hear shortly from, is it Noh Records?
Actually, it's Noh Poetry Records.
Noh Poetry Records. Naughty.
Correct.
Naughty. Now, we kicked off with Astralfish, the track called Far, off the Far Corners album. Then we had Grindlestone, Once There Was Only, off the CD Tone, and a track which took some people by the Mike Moorcock and the Deep Fix. How'd you get involved with all these guys, Don?
Well, some of it was, the idea of the label was to have a launching pad for some of my projects.
Yeah.
But what happened early on was it was clear it was an opportunity to do some special releases. Kind of find a home for things that never got to proper lift-off, like that Michael Moorcock double CD.
Yeah.
And then, compilations where you could maybe dedicate the whole CD to a certain type of music or a process. And, you put the offer out there, and, sometimes you get a yes. And Mike, for instance, was really happy to have the demo sections from 2 albums that, never really got a proper release. And we had to clean them up a little bit. So, they were home demo sessions with him and Pete Pavley.
Well, even so, they've stood the test of time, Don.
Yeah, actually, I might as well just jump in. One big surprise is I actually have news that there will be a new Michael Moorcock and the Deep Fix CD, probably titled The Terminal Cafe Live, and it's Mike and Pete Pavley and probably some people from England, more of a Cajun-inspired release, and it will be on Noh Poetry.
Oh, wow.
It may take a year, but it's, the work is being done, and it's Mike still likes our label as a place to put it out.
But how did that? How did it all begin? Noh Poetry Records, where's its roots?
Well, before the record, I was actually in a punk band in the early '80s, and I was responsible for naming it Noh Poetry, but just N-O. And then years later, when I was looking for a name for a label to put out my first solo CD for my Spaceship Eyes project, I went with Noh Poetry. But like I said early on, it was clear that instead of just putting out some new bands, it was we could do a compilation and get interesting people involved. Or what happened with Astralfish recently was a chance. It's the first real CD to have Bridget on it, using Iwi on every piece. It's kind of in some way I found ways to make it a celebration of type of music, or even just a chance to explore something a little different.
Well, it's nice if you can have that artistic freedom, Don, isn't it?
It is, and there is one reality. It's not a huge, or I shouldn't say huge. It's not really a money-making venture.
But it isn't. No.
And it's not like the Spirits Burning material that last time we talked. That has a home with other labels like Gonzo and through the years Voice Print. So this is more about stuff that I really would like to see get the light of day on an audio way. And from there, the hope is at least make some money back or maybe even break even.
if you're lucky. If we're
lucky.
Now, in the background is Goth Paul Revisited from a CD called Gothic Ships by Falcone and Palmer. Who's this Palmer? Which Palmer?
You know which Palmer. That's Stephen Palmer.
I know.
From Mooch.
Yes, of course. Bless him.
Yeah. What happened there was he had been one of the crew members for Spirits Burning, and we had got talking about doing a duo CD, and my only caveat was I wanted to try to make it ambient, spacey, and electronic, as opposed to space rock, or the stuff that he was doing. And I thought we did a real nice job. That's probably one of the more hidden releases. A lot of people don't know that exists. But I was very happy with it.
Well, they do now. We'll just listen to the last few seconds of it before we go to the next track. I'm going to push the music up just a little bit for you, Don. Well, this is the Thessalonians. Now, where did they come from? Obviously out of the Bible, but I know what you mean, the Thessalonians, but yeah.
Well, before I started Noh Poetry with my wife, so Karen and I are co-owners of this label. But before that, I was involved with a record label called Silent Records.
Yeah. And
one of their main projects or bands was Thessalonians, and it was with people who are in the ambient world know of Kim Cascone, who's the leader of that label and the band. Larry Thrasher, a tabla player who's played with Psychic TV and The Majesty with Genesis Purge, was in that band. And we actually played some gigs, and we did a really cool album years ago on Silent called Soulcraft. And we basically worked on a second album, and when I guess at some point Kim sold Silent, and that album basically fell off the cliff and didn't get released.
Oh.
And so about 4 or 5 years went by, maybe more, and I basically got everybody's buy-in to release it on Noh Poetry so I could get out there. And that's the story of Thessalonians.
Now, the next or the following track would be by Fireclan. Now, that conjures up some thoughts. Fireclan, who's in that band? You, no doubt.
Yes, but a little bit different and unexpected. I had also been in a band in the early 90s called Melting Euphoria.
Yes, I remember them, yeah.
Yeah, and they were on Cleopatra Records. And what happened, I was I guess, in the initial trio. Yeah. I quit, and then they got signed by Cleopatra. And they actually made 5-6 albums on Cleopatra and opened for, like, Nick Turner and Osric Tentacles.
Yes, indeed,
like in the famous Fillmore locally. So anyways, I kept in touch with some of the members. And Fireclan, first ideas for it were by the drummer from Melting Euphoria, Michael Merrill, and then the keyboardist who actually had replaced me, a guy named Louis Davia. And they had started about half of what was to become Fireclan, and at that point I had a home studio, or actually a mobile studio, so I could go up to Petaluma, California, where they were at, and I actually switched more to my roots and ended up playing bass on most of the album. So you have myself on bass, Michael on drums, Lewis on synth. I did a little synth, and then David Allen from Gong guest starred in a couple pieces.
Oh, wow.
And then there was a cello player in a couple pieces. And I think Karen, my wife, was on a piece that was all percussion. But it's definitely, it's probably the best CD featuring me on bass. I'm not really known as a bass player.
Well, we'll see if we can hear the bass now. I'm going to push the track up for a couple of minutes, and we may hear the bass, and we may hear Karen as well. Here we go. We can hear the bass in that most prominently, Don. Excellent. Any more plans for this band, do you think, or what, Don?
No, so actually Michael passed away a few years ago.
Indeed, yes.
So he's no longer with us. Mm-hmm. And I'm not actually sure if Lewis is still performing as a musician.
Right, okay.
But it's kind of a one-time.
Well, no doubt he's listening from above, and
I hope.
I'm sure he will be. You know, you'll get a knock on your door one of these days, and get a spectral visitor or something like that. Now the next track we'll hear is Steve Wilson. Now, how did you meet up with Stephen Wilson? For goodness' sake.
Yeah. Well, the first time was I sent him an email for an invite for the first Spirits Burning CD. Yeah. And he's on a track on that CD, a real long one. It's probably the best track on that CD. And actually, it's also on the Spirits Burning Best Of. Yeah. And I know he likes the track a lot, but I actually think he was disappointed with the Spirits Burning release. I don't think it was, on the whole, what he had hoped for. But what I think was really interesting, when I came back to him a couple years later and said, we have this idea for a compilation where everybody basically has a single source music piece. So, for instance, I did a piece with a 1 kilohertz tone and then did things with it. Another two people went into an abandoned apartment building and played with a piece of pottery, getting sound out of it. So Stephen he loved the idea of the concept of the album. Yeah. And he basically felt that the work that he had done with Robert Fripp of King Crimson, indeed, even though some of this had already been on the Bass Communion CDs, he thought that it would be appropriate for this album, and he was more than happy to be part of it. And the other thing I should say is he was really happy with the final release. And then, we were talking about Thessalonians before. Yes. Also on that CD was Kim Cascone. Oh. And there was even a Bill Loswell Praxis remix.
Oh, wow.
On there as well. So it's called Where Stalks the Sandman. It's a compilation.
Indeed. Where Stalks the Sandman. Sounds a bit like Steve Wilson himself, really, the Sandman.
It can have many, many meanings, yes.
I'm sure it does, but where can people, before we talk about the next two tracks, where can people find out more about Noh Poetry Records?
Probably the main place is NohPoetryRecords.com, right. And that's Noh NohPoetryRecords.com. But you'll also see links there where you could go to there's a Facebook page, a Reverb Nation page. There's even a Bandcamp page, and maybe we'll talk about that later.
Excellent. So, anything else that you would like to... would you like to do more work with Steven Wilson? I mean, he has a most unusual vocal cords, and he... Excellent.
Yeah, I would love to, but I somehow doubt that would come to fruition.
Yeah.
He continues to get bigger and bigger, on the world picture, and I'm happy for the 2 times we've done things together. And so.
Is there any other forthcoming albums coming through Noh Poetry Records at all?
Basically, for 2013, probably 2 to 3 releases, if they're done in time.
Yeah.
One is the Michael Moorcock in the Deep Fix Terminal Cafe Live I mentioned before.
Yeah.
There's going to be a second Astralfish CD with Bridget.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, we've been talking about that, just started new material. We've taken to heart one of the reviews that it might be nice to hear longer songs, so we probably will do a couple longer songs. There will be a Grindlestone 3rd CD, and for those paying attention, it will be called Stone.
Yes.
And there's also kind of been a side Grindlestone project with my wife Karen, myself, and Doug, where we've kind of done... I don't know if I'd call it a takeoff of Tangerine Dream, but I've thought about if we clean up and tweak and produce some of the material. We've been doing like these once or twice a month jams. Yeah. That we might put some of it online for digital download, and if somebody's interested, they could check it out.
Well, that sounds an interesting project.
Yeah, so that's probably at this point that's a lot for Noh Poetry, and then I've got, as you probably already know, lots of spirits burning things.
Indeed, yes. You have your iron in many fires, Don.
It's good to keep burning, yes.
Yes, indeed. Now, any live performances at all coming up in the near future, Don?
No, nothing planned. I suspect I said the same thing to you when we talked a year or two ago. If David Allen ends up visiting for a week or so in the Bay Area, I probably would see if I could get him to do a Spirits Burning show, and I would put a band together for that.
Well, that sounds excellent. We're going to listen a little bit more to the Steven Wilson. Was it A Grapefruit in the World of Park? Is that the name of the track, isn't it?
Yes.
I love those titles. Here we go. Let's listen to the title. Listen to the title. I like it. Has a new title. Here we go. Haunting track, isn't it, out from Don?
Yeah, that's
very.
I don't. If you weren't sure, that's actually Robert Fripp, and
it could well be.
It is.
It is.
So what Steven did is he got together with Fripp, and they did a couple hours of material, and then Steven was given license to loop and create new pieces out of them. And so that basically was the idea of that was Steven's usage of a single source sound.
A bit of Frippatronics.
But I think in a different way than
yes,
Fripp and Eno did it.
Yeah, indeed, it was. I mean, would you like to work with Fripp and Ina and all those guys, etc.?
Of course.
I bet you would do, yeah. Do you think the opportunity would ever arise, Don?
I don't know. It's I actually haven't tried to approach someone like Fripp, and I do know people who know Fripp. The people that seemed possible to get in touch with, that might be a good mix I have. So, for instance, Spirits Burning, the next CD is Spirits Burning in Clearlight. I'm working with Cyril Verdeaux. And there was a nice opportunity where he happened to come in the Bay Area, and I recorded him. So sometimes that's how these things happen. I mean, and I don't know if you remember a few years ago, there was a Spirits Burning piece with Nick Potter from Vandergraaf Generator.
Yes, that's wow.
So I just happened to find his website, and I asked, and he responded. So it's you don't try.
Well, that's it. If you don't ask, you don't find out, do you?
Right.
Sometimes you have to keep.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to keep asking, don't you?
Right, but it also has to be the right situation.
Yes,
I think
indeed, yeah.
The Stevens story was a good example where I know he has an experimental side and he likes the idea of single source material. If I was doing, this really isn't no poetry per se, but if I was doing a Spirits Burning punk album, that wouldn't be the right fit for Fripp.
No, I can imagine that. Now, we've only got a couple of tracks left, and the one in the background is Quiet Celebration. That's by Indigo. Why the brackets April 16th, Don? I'm intrigued by that.
Let me cheat and look at the birthday calendar in the music room here. You said April 16th?
Yes, I did, yeah.
That's my niece's Suzanne's birthday.
Oh, wow.
So what happened was the initial idea musically was to celebrate ambient music or the quiet side of music. The band name Quiet Celebration.
Indeed,
From there, we named each track with a color and a date.
Right.
And the colors were, interesting colors that seemed to fit the music or might influence the music. And then the dates for that first album, because there was a follow-up on another label, but the first album dates were, close to somebody in my family. My birthday's in there. There's wedding anniversaries, there things like that. But again, it fits a celebration motif.
Yes. So, well, I mean, it's nice to have a family album, if you know what I mean, Don,
I did give them out as gifts, yes.
I like it. That can be expensive as well, Don, can't it?
It was our release and our label, so we had the inventory.
So you kept all the profits on that one. Now, the last track of yours, Spaceship Eyes. Where did that band come from, Don? Obviously, you again.
Spaceship Eyes was actually my solo project, and that was what launched the label. The idea was I was going to do a solo album, and on that album, I'm doing keyboards and electronic percussion, and then about half the songs have a real drummer, a guy named Gary Parra, who I used to play with, and I think Karen played percussion on a couple pieces, but it really was created as a solo project.
Right.
What then happened was I started playing live, and it kind of became, I guess I'd call it a light space rock band. Yeah. And then I got an offer to sign with Cleopatra Records, and they actually asked me to do electronica and drum and bass. Yeah. And I thought it would be kind of an interesting challenge. And so the second and third Spaceship Eyes CDs, which are on Cleopatra, are very experimental drum and bass. Don't sound anything like this CD. I would like to someday revisit that first Spaceship Eyes CD style and do something, because it's probably the best keyboard performances I ever did.
Well, it's nice again if you have those facilities that you can do this and you can tweak and twiddle and enhance or whatever it is. It's nice to have your own studio, isn't it, hey, Don?
Yeah, it is. I think maybe the other thing in here is time and your personal priorities. So, you know, for instance, I'd like to do a lot of things, but you can only do so much. And so when you end up, you know, whether I'll get around to another Spaceship Ice CD, we'll see. But I would like to. I think
well, I'm sure the project will be welcome with open arms. But in the meantime, thank you very much for your interview, Don. Hopefully me trimming down the tracks didn't do them any harm at all. My little extra mixing them down. Hopefully okay.
No, it's good hearing them. I think it's good for people to have a chance to hear it on your show. It was great talking to you, and it was kind of fun telling people what's coming up in the next year or so.
Well, they can find out more, of course, by going to, NohPoetryRecords.com.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's NOH. Yeah.
Indeed.
That's like like no theater.
Yes, indeed. Yes. Well, it's been great fun, and I wish you every success for this. Well, we're not really we're halfway through the year, aren't we? We're in the 6th month, so who knows what the next 6 months will have in store for you, Don. You and Karen.
For sure. Thank you very much, Terry, and take care of yourself and have a great show.
We will, Don. I'm enjoying myself. I'm finding new avenues to go down and back, and you know, and it's great playing this variety of music, and it's great fun. I love it, Don.
Cool.
Okay, then stay on the line, Don. I'll speak to you off air. But in the meantime, thanks for your time, Don. It's great speaking to you. And you take care for the rest of the weekend.
And same to all your listeners. Bye.
You're very welcome. Cheers, Don. Thank you, Don Falcone. What a mixture you had there.